This house is all made out of wood. Cedar shingles, in fact. But when you're remodeling, it's all right to introduce a new material as long as it complements what's there. In our case, we've put in 4 Indiana limestone columns to support the pergola roof. About a month and a half ago, we went to Bedford, Indiana. It was practically 70 below. But we had a wonderful tour of the facility there, the Indiana Limestone Company, where not only do they bring in the quarried stone, but they turn it into columns and building blocks. If any of you have ever traveled to some of our major cities like New York, you might have noticed that the Empire State Building is totally covered in this material. The Pentagon in Washington, and many, many buildings throughout the country. Let's get together with Dave Kern, who is our host down there, and take a little tour of their facility. That is a huge piece of limestone. I mean, that's the way it comes out of the quarry, right?
Yes, it is, Bob. That's the way it comes out of the quarry. That block right there weighs about 10 tons.
What's the nature of limestone? What's it made out of?
Primarily, it's about 99% calcium.
And nowadays, in building, how is it used?
Indiana limestone is one of the most popular building stones for dimensional limestone, and it's used mostly in ashlar buildings.
When you say ashlar, that refers to the skin of the building, right?
Most of the buildings today are 2-inch to 6-inch skin.
Yeah.
That's put on either a steel structure or a precast structure.
Okay. And at this stage of the game, these giant rocks get cut into slices.
Yeah, what we're doing here, this is the diamond belt saw, and this technology we introduced in 1992. And what it has done is now we can saw about 15 inches a minute rather than going for 8 hours at a time sawing one block.
Well, the old-fashioned way was with a gang saw?
A gang saw, yes.
Where you actually were cutting it with a cable?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
These two saws have replaced approximately 15 gang saws.
What kind of a blade does this have?
It's a diamond segmented rope.
Pretty expensive item,
Yes,
huh?
It is. It costs about $3,000.
Amazing. So, okay, you're slicing it here, but how come you've got this big cylindrical piece behind you? What is that?
Yeah, Bob, what that is, that's one of the cylinders that's a segment of a column going on the Federal Triangle.
What is the Federal Triangle?
The Federal Triangle is one of the largest limestone projects to come along in quite some time.
It's a building project in Washington,
Yes,
D.C. So how do you turn columns? How do you make them cylindrical?
We do that on the lathe.
Can we go take a look at
Sure.
that?
Well, Bob, before we can turn a column, we have to prep the raw material.
So what you've got here is one section of limestone?
Yeah, what we've done is we sawed it 6 sides.
So this is sawed 6 sides.
Yes.
I like that, yeah. 4 sides top and bottom.
That's right.
Yeah. And then that will become a column.
Right.
Gorgeous.
Each piece that you'll see running through our mill today will be custom ordered. So what you'll see is we not only get the dimensioning right, but you've also asked for it to be tapered as well.
And you can see that it's cylindrical up to here, and then it begins to taper towards the top. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, is that one of ours over there?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're finishing up one of your pieces right now on the lathe.
How do you put the taper onto it?
What we do is we use a cutting tool on the other side. It's put on at an angle, and what it'll do is feed up through there at the proper dimension.
So it's slowly
working its way into the stone.
It works its way through. Great. So what's the next step after this?
Well, after this, what we'll do is we'll put on some finishing touches at our fabrication plant.
Terrific. I tell you, this is an awfully noisy place to work, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's why most of our people wear hearing protection.
Sure, we should have put some on.
Yeah.
What's
now, this piece here, this doesn't have anything to do with your job. But what this is all done by machines that I'll show you in a few minutes. So right now, I'd like to get back to what we're doing on your project.
This will probably be a section of a building facade?
Yes, it will.
Yeah. Okay, what's happening here?
Right here we have the bases for your column, as well as the capitals.
So the columns will sit on these square pieces.
You can see now that instead of using the old mallet with the chisel, now they're all pneumatically powered.
So you've got air power coming through the hose, and look at how well worn that chisel is.
Yes, it is.
But of course, one thing about the limestone is that it's soft enough that it wears away.
Very easy to work with,
You can practically worry it away. Why not just put this through some sort of a saw?
Well, what we try to do is get a very net size, and we're going to apply the dowel hole so it'll fit on against your column very snugly.
Okay. So that when these arrive on the job, those are the pieces that go on the top of the column. Where are the columns? Oh, here you go.
Here's the columns right here.
So the final stages involve...
Yeah, what we're doing now is just giving it a hand rub down, getting the final sanding done, but everything else is complete on this column.
It's really beautiful. And I especially like the little bit of taper down to the end. Yeah. You know, it's amazing looking around here. It seems like such an awesome work environment for these guys. Yeah. It looks like the kind of technology hasn't really changed that much.
Well, in this part of the plant it hasn't, but I have something very exciting. I'd like to show you another part of the plant.
Sure. Wow, this all looks like a brand new installation, Dave.
Yes, this group of machinery is only installed a few months ago.
And what are we doing here?
Well, do you remember the piece we saw down there with the grooves in it?
Sure.
Well, that's just one of the types of pieces we can do here in this area.
I guess architects are always coming up with new ideas.
Yes, they are. Having to continually change our machinery to match their demands.
So is that polishing the stone there?
Yeah, that's a honing machine there, putting a high polish finish on it, rather than the old sawed finish that we used to do.
I didn't think limestone would take a high polish.
Yeah, it takes a high polish finish very well.
And
we're starting to see the limestone used for not only exterior, but interior and pavers as well.
Even for floor tile?
Yes.
So you must have to put a sealer on it if it's going to be a floor product.
Usually.
Yeah. Now, what will these huge slabs of limestone be used for?
Well, these particular slabs are being used for the Federal Triangle project that I mentioned earlier.
Down in Washington, D.C.?
Yes. It's a very large limestone project, probably one of the largest to be in the last 50 or 60 years. And what we're seeing right here is we're sawing not only the height, but the length on these stones here, and they already have the thickness. So after they leave this area, they'll already have those three dimensions.
So it really just looks like a giant radial arm saw. What kind of blade is on there?
That's a diamond segmented saw.
Okay. So is that the sort of blade that wears out once a week? Or will
No, we'll get several months use out of this, depending on the types of stones we run through it.
Fabulous.